Hey guys, Coach Hunter here. Kenzie helping me out today.
Hiya.
So today I wanted to work on movement and striking angles, talking about our pivoting especially, okay? We're also going to get into a little bit of stance switching today. So if you only ever practice in one stance, it's something that makes sense, and when you're new, I generally recommend people master one stance before trying to switch to both. However, there is a logic to always playing with both stances all the time from the beginning, okay? Getting comfortable in both stances means that if you're ever caught off guard or you happen to switch accidentally, happens in a fight or in any kind of sparring scenario, you're comfortable and you can at least strike for a moment there, okay? And move effectively. So it's something to practice, something to play with. So guys, let's go ahead and get into it. I actually want to give you a minute here. So guys, we're going to work on pivoting first, okay? So there's two forms of pivoting. The first is pivoting on your lead foot static. I'm just turning, pivoting on that lead foot, okay? Important, okay, we're pivoting, moving, okay? The next is a pivot on the rear foot. So when we do this, we're gonna step out, and in this case with our rear foot, and we're gonna turn on that foot as I step back to my stance. So we're keeping our normal stance here. Stepping out, turning. Stepping out, turning. I'm stepping out at a diagonal. So if like there's a line heading straight from the center of my body, at a diagonal, that's where I want to step and pivot. Okay, with Mackenzie there, I'm pivoting around her. I'm stepping out, turning to face my opponent. Okay, now you can see Mackenzie's center line is facing this direction. My center line is facing right into Mackenzie. That's a big advantage for me. Okay? I can also go the other direction. My lead foot steps out. I pivot around here. So pivoting on the lead foot here, but I'm going to cut an angle also. Stepping out, pivot. Step out, pivot. Step out, pivot. Okay? So pivoting on with an angle cut. Okay? So pivoting with an angle step. Keeping our stance. The other movement we're going to play with is cutting an angle, switching stances. Okay? So in some ways this is actually easier. My rear foot's going to step out. I'm going to pivot on that rear foot is now my lead foot. Okay? And I'm going to just go back and forth. My rear foot, in this case is my left leg, is going to step out. I'm going to pivot, switching stances. So I can go both directions. Step out, pivot. 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 So play with this, guys. It's gonna get that movement down. You know, if you're doing it, it feels weird, doesn't seem right, you're not ending up in the right spots, film yourself, send it to me. I'm happy to tell you, kind of like give you advice, what's going wrong. Or if it's going right, it just doesn't feel right yet. Okay, that's a lot of these movements, guys. Nothing feels correct the first time you do it. The first time you drove a car, if you drive, you know, it's gonna feel awkward and feel strange, even if you're doing it correctly. So same thing here. You know, you just have to get used to these movements. It's about okay, how do we use that in a fighting context? Well, the main thing we'll be doing is putting ourselves in an advantageous position. Just like real estate, guys, it's location, location, location. Okay? I can do attacks, and they can be technically sound. They can be effective, they can have power, straight on with my opponent. But it's much more dangerous because she can fire straight back at me. Okay? And her attacks and her guard is generally positioned correctly to defend. However, if I get this pivot angle, now my attacks are coming into at an awkward angle from Mackenzie. Her power is not facing me, so her return to strikes will not be as effective, at least until she makes a similar pivot out. Okay? And so now we're back to square. Okay? So it's really important to be cutting these little angles while we attack. Often we'll be hiding our step with footwork with our jab. Okay? Cutting my angle. So stepping simultaneous with my jab and coming out, and usually we start throwing my follow-up at the same time. Okay? So a 1-2, 1-4, kind of whatever. It doesn't really matter. Okay, we're thinking about the concept here. Without a partner there. Be stepping out with my jab, throwing a hook with my angle. Okay, so how does this work with this stance switch. Exactly the same, okay? Stepping out with my jab, but now I'm just gonna swing this what is now my rear foot behind me. Of course, I don't have to throw that hook or whatever, okay, with the lead hand strike, but you can. It's a good thing to cover your movement and follow up, okay? Stepping out. Okay? That's to my rear hand side. To the lead hand side, it's exactly the same. I'm stepping with my jab, throw with my rear foot if I want, or move and then fire. So stepping out with my jab, pivoting, and then firing. Okay, if you like. Now on this side, step out, the jab, pivot with the strike. Step out with the jab, pivot, and then strike. Okay? With these stances, I'm stepping with my jab, but I'm dropping back, or almost straight sideways here. Okay? Okay? This would be like essentially a 1-2-3, same hand, same movement, or a 1-2-2. Okay? So guys, makes sense? I hope that makes sense. I think it's something that could really diversify your game. And so practicing those in the air real quick. We're thinking about stepping out with the jab, throwing your rear hand on the pivot, keeping my stance going to the lead hand side. Stepping out with my jab, throwing the rear hand on the pivot, going to my rear hand side. Stepping out with the jab, with the pivot, and throwing my rear hand with the pivot, switching stances. Usually going to follow up with the power hand from my opposite stance. Stepping out with the jab, throwing my hook on the pivot, and throwing my power hand from my new position, switching stances to my rear hand side. Okay guys, so try it out, play with it, just shadow box, really think about switching stances, move around in your southpaw stance, or opposite stance if you are southpaw, and get a feel for it. Just as a movement for a while, okay? Of course, throwing strikes, that's the best way of getting more comfortable firing from both stances. And I think you'll find that's gonna kind of come out when you spar without even thinking about it. All right, guys, stay safe, stay healthy. I'll see you on the mats.